On Football Manager, you occasionally hear people talking about metas. Well, essentially, it's an advantage for that current version of Football Manager. But in order for us to take advantage of these so-called metas, we actually first need to understand what team instructions actually do in the game. And I've done a long live stream on team instructions, which lots of you have been watching. It's from FM21. It's FM22. Yeah, I know it's the tail end of FM22, but I thought I'd revisit the team instructions and explain these very quickly so that when you get into the game, you understand how to take advantage of certain metas that happen. Now, I don't plan to dive into every single team instruction again because I've explained every team instruction with all the relevant movements that we have to pay attention to that I did in this live stream. If you want to go check it out, you can. Plenty of examples there, so we won't be wasting too much time. Instead, what I will do is summarize. So the thing about team instructions, I'm going to cover each one of these really quickly so that you understand what these do in the game, especially if you're new to the game. But before we jump into the team instructions, we got to make one thing very clear: the difference between play instructions and team instructions. In the game, we've got certain roles will come with play instructions. These can be hard-coded. Now, there are some roles that are hard-coded and there are some roles that are a bit more generic. Now, when I say a role is hard-coded, they are hard-coded because they will be given certain things under the hood that we can't change. For example, an F9 is going to drop deeper. A Trequartista will drop deep and then he'll bust the gut to get up the pitch again. You can't go into the game and tell this guy, can you drop deeper right now? He won't be able to because he's hard-coded to attack, right? He's hard-coded to become more of a goal scorer. So there are going to be different roles in this position. They'll all play slightly differently because under the hood, they've been given some unique instructions that we can't, as players, influence apart from their play instructions. Okay, so here we have some play instructions. It's important also to understand that there are play instructions that are not, they're not a zero-sum game because you've got take more risks and take fewer risks. A player is still going to take risks. That's the important thing to remember here because risks are tied heavily into mentality. This is a team instruction in the game. So while we have play instructions that sometimes override team instructions, they all work within one giant umbrella, which is mentality. So let's begin our little video on team instructions by covering what mentality does. I'm going to use a generic preset. There will be no PIs on any of these players. I'm just going to use the gegenpressing team instructions and we just go and play a game. We'll quick pick as well the players. We're not going to influence it in any other way. So here we're going to play a game. Now there's certain things we have to remember. When you play on lower mentalities, you also affect the intensity of your tactic. The higher your mentality, the more intensity your tactic is going to have. Now, why is this? Because mentality is a slider that affects everything in the game. Right? So it's going to affect your risk-taking. It's also going to affect things like your width, your passing directness, your tempo. These are all small little things that are going to be affected. And then when you go to each individual role might be taking more risks. They might be passing a bit longer. So when you change mentality, under the hood, you're affecting quite a few things. So if you're going to make drastic changes to your game by changing mentality from, say, defensive to attacking, you have to recognize what's going to happen. On lower mentalities, when you tell your team to play a game, chances are, when it comes to their passing, you might see a bit more of a cautious approach. Players are going to pass the ball around a bit more. When you play on a higher mentality, players might be a bit more direct. They may be looking for more risky passes. These are things that you have to bear in mind when you play the game. Then we have individual roles. Wingbacks are told to run wide with the ball and get further forward. They are going to be a slightly more aggressive role than a fullback. Now, one of the easiest ways in the game, and this has been working since the days of CMO 304, is if you see two roles and one role is positioned slightly higher than another role, chances are the guy that's positioned higher is a bit more aggressive than the one positioned a bit deeper. This can be a clue because Firstly, it does mean that his initial positioning is going to be higher when you have the ball. Are lower mentalities bad? No, they're not. Okay, a low mentality can still be a very good mentality if you think about the risk factor when your team has the ball. They're not going to take too many risks playing the ball. So if you give a player more options to pass the ball, then you're going to see your team trying to keep the ball. In fact, you can create some very high possession tactics playing on lower mentalities. It's been the case since FM12. So nothing really has changed between FM12 to FM22 in that regard in terms of mentality. So what we're going to do next is we're going to play this tactic on a lower mentality to see the impact it has on player movement. We have possession of the ball, we're playing on a lower mentality, but we're also using pass into space. Some of these roles might try risky passes, but at a lower mentality, well, I would say that most of these passes are going to be safer options unless somebody decides to look up and try the risky pass. So the ball is played back to the keeper. The keeper plays it out to the defender. The defender plays it out to the wing back. Now, the wing back is probably going to take one of those risky passes if he sees an opportunity. He gets the ball. He plays it straight to the feet of the inside forward. Inside forward, remember this, he doesn't have an option. Right, he is told to take more risky passes by default. So he gets the ball, he goes back inside, looks for options, then plays it safer pass back to the playmaker. The playmaker plays a longer pass, but it's within his toolkit. So as far as he's concerned, it's not a risky pass because he can play that pass out to the flanks. The wingback has moved into this position and he's attacking with the ball. Then he turns back inside again. Now, even if you're playing on higher width settings, it's going to be a low risk percentage. A pass that he's going to play. He turns, he's got a player next to him, he plays the pass to him. Now, the wing inside forward looks for a low risk pass again, he plays it to the box to box midfielder. So these are things that are going to happen when you are playing on a low mentality with these roles in play. And even if you have that pass into space instruction, because some players might play that risky pass, but because your mentality is affecting the entire team, you're not going to see it happen too often. We're not going to shift our mentality from very defensive to very attacking. Several things are going to happen when you do this. First, your intensity goes up. Players are going to take a lot more risks with the ball. The second thing you have to bear in mind is the passing directness of the team will be a bit more direct. They'll try more, funky things with the ball. More importantly, tempo is an instruction that tells your team to hurry up, basically. Hurry up with things like decision making. Hurry up with playing the pass. Don't spend too long thinking about it. So a player's decision making has to be good. You're going to have good work rate and stamina in a team to play on extremely high tempos. And of course, certain mental attributes like anticipation. There's a lot more urgency. Players are trying more risky passes as well. There's one over the top. Here we go. The team is trying to get the ball across the pitch. On higher mentalities, you see your team trying to be a bit more likely to take risky passes as they move the ball across the pitch. If you want to play on very attacking mentalities, you need to make sure there are options to pass the ball. That is incredibly important. And when your team moves the ball up the pitch, they're going to do this quite aggressively. As long as you have options, you can create some very good goal-scoring opportunities from them. Here we've got the ball. As you can see, there are plenty of passing options. They drive the ball up the pitch. The inside forward comes inside and releases the ball for the other inside forward, and we get our goal. So very attacking mentalities aren't necessarily bad as long as you think things through when you're setting up roles and duties. Next, we're going to drop mentality down to balance and we're going to start messing around with width. Now, this is going to be slightly interesting because here I'm going to eventually lead us to the meta for Football Manager 22. Now, what we want to do is understand what width does. Width affects positioning. Width affects the focus of your passes. Yes, it tells your team, and I've been saying this since FM12. Right. When you play on narrow width settings, you're encouraging your players to come a bit more inside. But more importantly, you're telling them to pass inside. We are telling them to do wall passes. Then you play on wider width settings, place a position a bit further out. But now you're telling them, hey, go to the flanks a bit more when it comes to your passes. This is very important to understand because if you want to play to the meta of Football Manager 22, you absolutely need to understand what width does. Because later I'm going to show you how this works with focus play and other team instructions. To see the impact, we're going to drop mentality down to balance, width down to 0. So when we get the ball and we're transitioning from defense to midfield, you can see where our inside forward is positioned. You can see where our fullback is positioned. Relatively speaking, okay, the boys are fairly narrow at the moment. As we build play up, the players are coming inside. You can see where this wing back is. You can see where this wing back is. The wing back is not here. I mean, generally, what you will see in the game is normally the players are going to be positioned relative to the other team. They're not just going to simply, he's not just going to go and sit here if you're playing on very wide because there's a player here. It's like, why would I want to sit here when there's no one here, right? So this is what's going to happen. Of course, you can influence with settings of individual roles because they have PIs for that, stay wider and sit narrow. So here the inside forward goes. But once we hit this phase of the transition, which is very close to the attacking transition, you will see players moving towards the box. So regardless of your width settings, you can be extremely wide or you can be extremely narrow. At this phase of the play, players are going to attack the box whether you like it or not. So here the inside forward comes in. We got players attacking the box. He tries to cross the ball. So we have just seen what happens when we're playing on narrow width. Here you can see we have the ball. The ball is being played inside. Play goes inside again. And then finally when the wingback is free, they play the ball out to the wingback. There's a lot of wall passes inside before the ball finally goes out. So these are things that we want to bear in mind whenever we're playing on the narrowest width settings. There is a strong possibility we'll see the first pass being inside. There we go. It's another inside pass. The pass goes inside again. Before it goes out wide, then it goes inside again. This is what I call wall passes. It goes out. Now the next pass is going to be probably inside if he's going to try. So he's tried to cross the ball. Now if he had somebody closer to him, chances are he would have gone inside. Now you got the wing back. He's going up the pitch. He plays the ball inside instead of across. And we look for a goal scoring opportunity. So the thing here, this is what happens when you're playing on the narrowest width settings. A majority of your passes are going to be inside. But even when you look at the game, you might be thinking, hey, the guys are looking pretty wide. But here we have to bear in mind, the wingback is always going to run wide with the ball. So regardless of your width settings, your wingback is always going to be in this position. But look at where the other wingback is, right? He's tucked inside the penalty area. He's nowhere near here. Now, this is natural because we are moving into the transition where most of our players are going to be attacking the area. So when we are attacking the area, the chances are he's not going to be here when we're attacking the area. He's going to be the edge of the area because the rest of his teammates are going to be attacking centrally. So as we move the ball up the pitch, the wingback is holding his position. We have all these other roles looking in the central area. This is something that we should expect when we're playing on narrow width settings. What we're going to do next, yes, it's obvious, isn't it? We're going to just go zoom. Play extremely wide because we want to see the differences. Now, when you're playing extremely wide and you're playing passing directness standard, tempo standard, all right, while your players are positioned further out, while you're telling everybody, hey, we want to play wide. Now, the problem with this setup sometimes is you got certain roles here and all these roles are going to have their own passing instructions. Now, he's been told to pass shorter. Now, as far as he's concerned, unless you're playing on higher risk mentalities, he's not going to look for that long diagonal Trent Alexander-Arnold passing to Andy Robertson kind of pass, right? You want to see a bit more of that, you got to go on higher mentalities. The second thing we need to understand is you can individually influence the passing of your players. You can tell him to, hey, I want you to be Andy Robertson. Let's take a bit more risks, okay? Or rather Trent Alexander-Arnold. Do the same thing to this player. They can start taking a bit more risks with their passing. So these are small little things that you can adjust. Now, I've done a video on this as well. It's called creative passing. You can go into the game and influence the passing of your players. But what we want to do is we want to see that at the moment. We want to see how this higher width settings pan out when we are playing with the passing set on standard. Now, standard literally means in this game mix. But remember that some of your players are going to be on short passing. So when you change this, generally I recommend to people, go a bit more direct if you want to go extremely wide because you're trying to encourage the use of your flanks a bit more. If you do this, your play is still going to come inside occasionally because players might not be taking risks. If you want them to go further out, then you have to change your mentality. So this is how the team instructions tend to work together. Now, we're definitely going to be replaying the same game again to see the impact of changes in team instructions because we don't want to go to a new team. We are playing against a 4-4-2. I would like to have a baseline somewhere when we are, comparing changes to team instructions, because ultimately your changes are going to be relative to the formation you're playing against. So it's the second half. You can see So now we've won the ball. You can see where our wingbacks are positioned. Now, here as the ball shifts, you can actually see where the wingbacks are moving. They're actually moving into wider positions. The inside forward receives the ball. The ball goes immediately towards the flanks. It doesn't move backwards. Instead, the first pass out is towards the flanks. We lose the ball. It goes back to the defender. And that's the end of the highlight. So here we're building up play. You can see the wingbacks are hugging the line. They're very wide at the moment. And then when we build play up, the wingback is touching the line. He plays one inside. Building play out from the back. You can see how wide the wingbacks are. The ball will go out to the wingback as a priority. He goes down the line to the striker. So here we've got the ball. You can see during the build-up phase itself, the wingbacks are literally hugging the line. And then when we look for passes, the passes are not really wall passes anymore. The pass comes from the goalkeeper to the defender, goes out to the wingback. The wingback looks down the line for the first pass. The inside forward gets the pass. He tries to beat the players. So whenever you're playing on higher width settings, there's almost a priority to get those balls out to the flank as soon as possible. You know that these passes are going to try to go out to wider players the first chance they get. So sometimes when we're creating our tactics, we want to try and create situations which give them give them an advantage, like a 2v1 advantage on one side of the pitch. And this is where focus play comes in. If we are going to understand the meta for Football Manager 22, which is narrow systems, why they are strong, we need to understand width, we need to understand focus play. We need to understand how these work together to create those kind of situations where players come in and give you space to play one over the top, or you can play these nice 1-2 passes through the middle to go and score your goals. In order to get that working, we first need to understand the team instructions that are influencing the decisions of our players on the pitch. I won't be jumping into every single team instruction for Football Manager 22 because I've done all these team instructions in detail in that live stream. So what I'm going to be focusing on primarily is going to be the focus play instructions. Now, I've also done a focus play video as well. So if you want to see more examples of that, please go check out the focus play video. Now, when we play on extremely wide settings, our players are positioned further apart, right? Now, if you have a focus play, what does that do? It tells the central midfielders in that area to support the aerial focus. So if you're focusing down the left and you want to attack down the left, basically you're asking more players to shift to that side. When more players shift to that side, more space opens up elsewhere. Similarly, if you play focus play to the middle, you're telling them to shift closer to the middle when you have the ball. And then remember your width settings? These play a part as well because now you're positioning your players. On top of that, you're telling players to pass in a certain direction, the first pass or the second pass. Now, when you make those passes, you are attracting opposition players to that side too. So you can actually pull defenders away, creating goal scoring opportunities for yourself. And this is where the meta for Football Manager 22 comes in. The meta for Football Manager 22 is narrow tactics. Now, narrow tactics tend to pull players out, allowing you to do 1-2s through the middle and go score. What I'm going to do is a bit left field. Okay, we're going to go out here and we're telling to be an inverted wingback on attack. We're going to tell this guy to be an inverted wingback on attack. Then we're going to add the overlap and the overlap. Because an overlap instruction tells the widest player to hold up the ball. These two central midfielders attacking the middle. Let's go see what happens next. We're going to play against the same team to see the impact. So our team has been told to play extremely wide. We've got these two players out in the wider positions holding the ball. And the inverted wingback looks for an option high up the pitch. What I expect to see when we have the ball are these two central midfielders arriving in goal-scoring positions. Roaming playmaker won't be very far. So these guys, if they all have long shots or they can get into opposition area, will be good. These wingers are going to hold up the ball. I might even swap and put Politano here because Politano is a bit more goal-scoring. And then we've got Elmas here as well. Then we've got other players on the flanks just holding up the ball. And let's see what happens next. So Lobotka, the inverted wingback comes inside. This is a great time for you to use another set of team instructions. The combination is runs at defense and pass into space. Because as they run at defense, these players are pulled out. And as these players are pulled out, you create space, pass into space. 1, 2, 3, 4 can be in goal scoring positions. So this is something that we should try to understand when we're making our tactics because you are going to flood the center of your tactic. So we can see there's a potential for pass into space to work, right? Okay, so what I'm going to come in do now is pass into space with run and defense. We got an overlap and overlap. Now, what about the underlap? Underlap tells the widest player to hold up the ball for inside runs. We've got inside runs from these two players. These are the widest players. What happens if they hold up the ball? Now, if they hold up the ball, we've got these two guys, right? And we have a pressing forward. So now we are playing a game where the wider players might play the ball inside, and players are going to look for opportunities for others to run through the middle and have goal scoring shots. So now this is what we're going to see. The roaming playmaker plays one into the space, he plays one, and then we get into the final third and we're looking for another goal scoring opportunity. Where's the space opening up? The space is actually opening up in the middle, because we have told our team to focus play down the flanks. So when you focus play down the flanks, the center opens up. So here we go again. They have the ball, we're defending. Let's watch the transition after we win the ball back. So now we won the ball back. The pressing forward has the ball. He looks for options. We go through the middle, and okay, all right. So that's the central midfielder on attack scoring from deep. Now this is an AI generated counter attack, so I'm going to chalk this off at the moment. Whenever you have an AI generated counter attack, everybody is in an attacking mentality. So he's gone and very attacking mentality, rather than he's gone for one of those shots that is common on very high mentalities. But we've got the two inside central midfielders getting into goal scoring positions. Now here's another one. He's going to push up the ball. He's a central midfielder attack, finds the inverted wing back. Inverted wing back loses the ball. We were telling players to run a defense, right? So if you don't want certain players running a defense, all you got to do is go into the game like this, come into this role, and he's doing all this stuff, but I don't want him to do all this stuff. We're going to automatic. Maybe I'll tell him to get further forward. That's the attack section of inverted wingback on attack. Take fewer risks, shoot less often, dribble less. Hey, now let's go back to this guy, because we kind of forgot to tell him to do this. Get further forward. Okay, we've got our inverted wingbacks on attack. So what we want to do is we want to tell these two roles to do all the dribbling. These guys will hold back. Maybe we'll tell these two jokers here at the back to dribble less as well. Since we got Ryan defense, we'll tell him to dribble less as well. So now we are kind of messing around with these instructions. This is where PIs, if you want to set up PIs to run work with your team instructions, they got to understand what the team instructions are doing and what you're doing to mitigate that with play instructions. Now, this doesn't mean that the play instructions are doing a zero, right? You're not telling a player now to not dribble anymore. You're just telling him to do it less. So that's the likelihood. That's how these team instructions and play instructions work. So he's got the ball, he's still dribbling, and he plays it back to the ball player. He doesn't dribble anymore. Now there's a lot of one-touch passing. And then we get into the final third and we take a shot. So when you play this, when you set up your team instructions, you always got to think about how you're making play instructions work for you. So for this focus play through the middle, I've got to go on a very wide angle to show you the impact. Here I've got our two inverted wingbacks. This is one of the central midfielders on attack who's moved to this position. We've got the other central midfielder on attack here. We've got the roaming playmaker here. We've got one winger here staying wide, and we've got another winger here. But as the ball transitions through this phase, you will see the players coming closer to support the focus area, because it's focus play to the middle. Midfielders tend to come together. This bunching up is the reason why it's a bit of a meta. Why? It's going to attract players to these positions, which is one of the reasons why you want to have things like pass into space and run at defense. As the players run at the defense, they attract ball defenders to them. This creates space. Notice how this inverted wingback has run in completely unmarked. So as he comes into the area, he's totally unmarked. We've attracted opposition players as a result of the focus. He comes in and smashes home the goal. So we did all this with the use of several team instructions. We've got hold position on the wider players. Why are they holding position? We just want them to stay there, attract the opposition players to them. They've got these inverted wingbacks. We're using the auto duty. Now, the auto duty is a bit of a sneak cheat. I kind of want SI to remove this because it's very, very handy. So now we've got the inverted wingback on auto. We told him to take fewer risks, shoot less often, dribble less, shorter passing. So he's come through the middle. The two central midfielders on attack are pushing through the middle. These players are holding on, targets. And as we do the focus play to the middle, we create that bunching up effect. All these players are attracting opposition team members. The players who are going to be free are the two inverted wingbacks. As far as the other team instructions are concerned, I've already covered that in my live stream video. You can go check that video out if you want to understand how counter press, counter, regroup, hold shape work. And whenever you're in doubt, of course, I would recommend doing this, which is not choosing anything. When it comes to the out of possession team instructions, it's pretty straightforward. Your line of engagement will be triggered by your striker. So if your striker is very high up the pitch, like in this setup, we've got a much higher line of engagement. The moment the ball comes near the striker, he initiates the press, the others follow. They follow by either closing the channels down or trying to be very close to the players, depending on how you set up your tight marking. The higher your defensive line, the more likely your fullbacks are going to be involved in the attacking transitions, increasing the distance between them and the goal. So your defensive line actually impacts how you attack as well as how you defend. So higher your defensive line, the more likely your fullbacks are going to be involved in attacking transitions. The lower your defensive line, the less likely they are to be involved in the attacking transition. Now, finally, we've got this trigger press instruction. Now, the trigger press instruction is just a closing down intensity. This is important to understand. You've got maximum trigger press, which means that your players are trying to press opposition players all the time. And then you've got the negative press. Now, this just means that your players choose the appropriate time to press. Now, playing like this can have its advantages. However, you really need players with good anticipation, concentration, and positioning to pull this off, because you're basically telling your players to hold their positions and press only when a player makes a mistake. So this can be a good instruction, but you need the right players to pull it off. So I've tried my best to simplify these team instructions. Now on Thursday, I'm going to share with you a tactic which exploits some of these team instructions by, funneling play through the center. Now, Stick Piano, another person I respect, has started a YouTube channel where we are sharing tactics that have been tested on the Total Tactics Tester. Here again, he's going to share with you a tactic that exploits the meta of playing through the middle and different ways people are doing it. So don't forget to check out that video if you want to get some more ideas for your own tactic. I didn't want this to be a really long video. Now, if you want to see a live stream, once again, for team instructions where I spend an hour and a half messing around with team instructions with different kinds of tactics to see permutations, then please let me know in the comments below. And we'll do that on BTN Live. That's where I stream 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Once again, if you have any further questions on team instructions, you know where to drop me a note. You do it here in the comments below. I look forward to hearing your comments, and I look forward to hearing any thoughts you might have on how you are setting up your team instructions. Meanwhile, you guys, please stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.